every time someone's DNA was found on that farm, it was just, I was right back there, and I, and I was counting, I was counting women.
So what do you got? You know what I'm saying? DNA. Yeah.
It's 1995. Sex trade workers line the streets of Vancouver's downtown east side. Women are vanishing, and the local sex trade workers are on edge. The local police have no leads on the disappearances, and because of the women's Indigenous background, or their occupation as a sex trade worker, the Vancouver Police Department turned a blind eye to these missing women. This would leave the women of the downtown east side vulnerable, and between 1978 and 2001, 65 women would go missing.
Lori Shenher, Detective Constable Shenher of the VPD, was on a strong tip that Pickton was the man responsible for the disappearances and murders as of late July or early August 1998.
Shame on those that won't look after our women. Shame on the government for not implementing any of the calls to action.
In the early 1990s, sex trade work on the downtown east side was booming, and it had become a hunting ground for Robert Pickton. It is believed his first kill was in 1991, and he became a fully functioning serial killer in 1995. We may never know how many victims there actually were. However, in the years of killing, it is confirmed he has killed at least 26 women. Pickton himself claims to have taken the lives of 49 women. After murdering these women, he would dismember them and feed them to his pigs, leaving little to no remains. On March 22, 1997, Pickton would pick up a sex trade worker named Wendy Eistetter. Shortly after arriving at Pickton's property, the horror began to unfold for Wendy. He would handcuff one of Wendy's arms and begin to stab her several times in the abdomen. Wendy fought back, overpowered him, got the knife and stabbed him. Able to flee, she was bleeding profusely and ran towards the road next to Pickton's home. She was then spotted by passers-by and would be rushed to the hospital, surviving the attack. To make things even more horrific, she would see her attacker in the same emergency room, being treated for his injuries that she had caused earlier. Pickton would be arrested and charged with attempted murder. However, the case would be dismissed as Wendy was considered an uncredible witness due to her being a sex worker and a drug addict. They would then release Pickton back into the public and give him the freedom to kill. This would be one of 4 missed opportunities by the Vancouver Police Department on arresting Pickton. In July of 1998, a tip would come into Crime Stoppers, and the tip gave the name Willie Pickton. Detective Lorimer Shenher would receive this tip only 2 days into his new job. It said, "You should look at the guy, he's probably responsible for the missing women of Vancouver," and that he had a grinder of some type and there was bloody clothing and bags seen around his property. Shenher was excited by the news and met in person with the tipster. After meeting with the tipster, he searched the RCMP databases and came up with a file for Pickton that showed his charges for attempted murder and forcible confinement, both of which were dismissed. Shenher worked with the RCMP investigator on the Pickton case. However, because the information was from a third party and the tipster did not directly see the evidence, the RCMP again did not act on the tip, as it was hearsay. Shenher tried vigilantly to get the VPD and the RCMP to take these tips and many more that came in seriously. However, they were ignored. After Pickton's arrest, Shenher would state the following: "My mind went immediately to how many women died in that period of time. Basically from 1999 when we got a second tip on Pickton. That period of time when we had what we needed, we could have got him, and we didn't." In 1999, Lynn Ellingson was staying on Robert Pickton's farm. She was sleeping on the couch when a noise woke her. After noticing a light on in Pickton's barn, she went to investigate. As she approached the barn and peered through the door, she would see the legs of a woman hanging. Ellingson was horrified, and she would later tell a friend, and this friend would inform the police. However, after being questioned, Ellingson denied that she ever saw a body hanging on Pickton's farm. In the future, Ellingson would admit the story was true, and she had kept quiet because of her dependency on Pickton for drugs. Again in 1999, Bill Hitchcox informed the RCMP that a friend of Pickton's had told him that she had seen women's clothing, purses, and IDs at Pickton's home. The police were unable to obtain a search warrant due to the fact that there was no physical evidence and the story was hearsay. After years of the VPD and RCMP ignoring these women, these law enforcement agencies would finally have to acknowledge these missing women. On February 1st, 2002, former Pickton employee Bill Hitchcox would call in another tip that would lead to Pickton's arrest and finally end his killing spree. Hitchcock would state that he saw illegal firearms while at Pickton's trailer. This would be enough evidence for the police to get a search warrant. On February 5th, 2002, the police would converge on Pickton's home and take him into custody. They would find illegal firearms and an inhaler lying on the floor. The inhaler belonged to Serena Abbotsway, one of the known missing women from Vancouver's downtown east side. The police would now halt the firearms investigation and obtain new search warrants for Pickton's property. This would now be the start of the most extensive and expensive police investigation in Canadian history. Continuing their search, police would find many other items linking many other missing women to the farm, including clothing, shoes, jewelry, and ID. Detective Shenher would continue to lead the investigation. As earth movers, backhoes, payloaders, and conveyor belts moved and sifted tons of topsoil, there was a backlog of thousands of pieces of DNA evidence in police labs. It would take nearly a year to analyze more than 500,000 cubic feet of dirt. At the end of the excavation of the farm, the remains of 33 women would be found in total, 26 of which would have their identity confirmed through DNA. Pickton, now being held in the Surrey jail cell, would make the mistake that would seal his fate and horrify the public and the investigators. The police will now plant an undercover officer in Pickton's cell, and this is when the truth really unfolds.
No. What have you done? No. No carcasses. So what do you got? You know what I'm saying? DNA. What? Yeah. Come on, buddy. Fucking that's not. Okay, I know what's up. You fucking you got a fucking missing person. Sorry, we got a fucking how you made it. You got DNA. Fucking guys are right. I find the best way to fucking dispose of something is fucking take it in the ocean. Oh, really? Oh, fuck. You know what the fucking ocean does with this? Ain't much left. Any better than that? Who? Me? No. No shit. That's gotta be fucking pretty good. Hey? Mm-hmm. Can't be much fucking left. It's gonna stop it. It's just sloppy. Really? Keep going. Oh, the fuck. It's just sloppy. Yeah. Make a big battle. Make the big five cent. That's fuck. Fucking 5-0. Fucking have fun. Yeah. Best part. I fucking really want. And this is a picture. But how many of those? Wouldn't tell you. Wouldn't tell you.
On February 22, 2002, Robert Pickton was rearrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of Serena Abbotsway and Mona Wilson. By October 2002, Pickton would be charged with 15 counts of first-degree murder, and by 2007, when his trial began, it would be up to 26 counts of first-degree murder. The trial and investigation would be the most expensive in Canadian history, totaling just over $100 million. On January 22, 2007, Pickton would finally face charges on the murders of 6 of the 26 women. He would be sentenced to the maximum sentence in Canada, life in prison without parole for 25 years. However, I foresee that family members and the public will fight to keep this evil behind bars for the rest of his life. Join us on the next episode of The Stolen Sisters, the victims of Robert Pickton.